Well, welcome everyone to another coach video tip. My name's Dan Foster. I'm the Chief Operating Officer and an executive coach here at Building Champions. And today I am so excited to be sitting down with one of our CEO mentors and a good friend, Jim Wetrich. Jim, welcome. It's so great to be with you, my friend.
Dan, it's great to be with you, and I'm looking forward to our time together today. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, today we're going to be talking about a topic that I think is really critical to the success of any organization or team, and it's developing future leaders. Jim, we know that strong leadership doesn't just happen by chance. And we found that the most successful organizations, they're intentional. Not
Yeah,
only about developing, but identifying, equipping, and empowering that
yeah.
next generation of leaders. So, I've got some questions for you. I'm super excited to hear from you with your leadership experience and your time in the coach's chair and the mentor's chair. So, if you're ready to go, I've got some questions for you.
Dan, let's do it. I'm ready.
All right, sounds good. So, Jim, let's just answer maybe the question that might be on a lot of people's minds, which is okay, why is it so critical for organizations to be intentional about developing future leaders? And what impact does it have on their just overall long term success?
Yeah, Dan, thanks. I think that's a great question. And I think there are benefits for both the participants
Yeah.
as well as the sponsoring company. The company benefits, Dan, primarily, I think, from strengthening the leadership pipeline, right?
Mhm.
You're developing the pipeline.
Yes.
Better retention of key executives. I'll talk to one of the questions you also have
Yeah.
about my old company, my former company, Abbott Labs.
Yeah.
They definitely found in their leadership development program that there was great retention from
Yes.
people that participated. I think it's a great opportunity, Dan, for companies to enforce their values and help
Mm,
build and strengthen their corporate culture.
sure.
And I also think there are benefits around employee engagement. And I think companies experience enhanced engagement scores when they have
Yes.
these programs.
Yeah, I love.
Dan, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I love that. It's about building that leadership pipeline, like you said, because you never know when you're going to have to tap into that pipeline, right? It could really
That's right.
happen at any moment. And if you haven't been intentional about developing future leaders, you're going to be in a rough way as an organization, right? You're not going to have anybody in there to draw from, which then means you're pulling from an external source, perhaps, which isn't bad, but
Nope.
does cost a lot more and it takes a lot more time to assimilate someone new into the culture of the organization.
Yeah, great points. And I think, as I mentioned, the participants, benefit.
Yes.
They have accelerated career growth generally. They build and enhance their leadership skills.
Yeah.
I think there's building of strategic acumen
Yes.
that is created by a number of these programs. And one of the things I benefited from when I went through this program at Abbott was
Mhm.
I built my network because there were Abbott executives from all over the world that were in the
Yes.
program. More importantly than I think anything, Dan, is most of the companies sponsor coaches for their participants and also
Mhm.
mentors, sometimes within the organization. And having
Yeah.
that external coaching and that internal mentoring is just so important for executives.
It is. And I like what you said before that it really plays not only to building the pipeline, but it helps with that retention factor as well, right? In organizations, we saw this during the pandemic where we saw senior level executives at a number of organizations in different industries, healthcare in particular, that were exiting, and a
Yeah,
lot of the knowledge went with those executives
absolutely.
left. And
Absolutely.
so if you can provide them with development and support through both good times in your industry as well as challenging times in your industry, it just helps you to, again, build that leadership pipeline, keep great talent within the organization, and allow them, like you said, to be mentors and coaches to people that are coming up in the organization. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
good
Yeah,
man.
it's so powerful. So
Yeah.
powerful.
So, as
Yeah.
you think about the future and kind of, where leadership is going, what are some of the key characteristics or maybe skills that you think organizations should be looking for and really cultivating in their emerging leaders as they're thinking about developing them?
Yeah, Dan, I think it's important to help executives what I call avoid common derailers, right?
Okay.
Career derailers. And it's not always a focus of some of these programs and conversations, but I
Mhm.
think one of the most important things, and Jeff Immelt wrote about this in his book about his experience as chairman and CEO of General Electric. You know, the ability to say and to know when to say I don't know and
Yes.
to know what you don't know.
Yes.
It's so important, but we don't talk about that sometimes. And I've had bosses who felt strongly that you should never answer a question I don't know. You should, dance and make
Yeah.
something up, which I don't personally agree with, right?
No.
Certainly there are things you should know, but there's probably a lot of stuff you don't know. And
Yeah.
as work has become so specialized, right? You just can't possibly know everything. So that's an important derailer, I think. Being emotionally grounded, having good emotional intelligence, great self-awareness that you get through these programs.
Yes.
Psychological safety, Dan, I
Okay.
think companies can't do enough to help create a psychologically safe environment. Yes, business is tough. Yes, business is brutal. Yes, it's tough out there, but we should relish the opportunity to hear from everyone
Yeah.
and not have somebody's career go down in flames because they're willing to share their opinion. So I think
Yeah.
that's
Good.
creating that open milieu, I think is really critical. Yeah.
Awesome. I love those, Jim. Thank you. Thank you. So,
Yeah.
as a lot of HR leaders watch these tips, and we work with a number of them. I know you've done so. What are some best practices that you've seen in organizations where they've done leadership development really well? And what were
Yeah.
some of the what are some mistakes to avoid if
Yeah.
you're in charge of leadership development within your
Yeah.
organization?
Yeah, great questions, and I will defer back to my old former company, Abbott Labs, which I think had one of the best leadership development programs I've ever seen, and certainly the best one I've ever been a part of. First of all, it was spread out over a whole year,
Okay.
so it wasn't intense like let's go away for a long week retreat, total immersion, and then get overwhelmed and stressed
Yeah.
because there's just too much going on. So it was spread out. We had people from all over the world, from all the different businesses, from hospital products, from diagnostics, from pharmaceuticals, international. But the thing that was, for me, Dan, most valuable, particularly at that time in my career and my life, they
Yeah.
brought in absolutely world-class people that presented to us. Deborah Spar, who at the time was at Harvard and I think now is president of Brown University or was.
Okay.
She came in and led a whole program focusing on China, right? Case studies on China. But the work we were doing, Dan, was strategic to the company.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just an exercise for the purpose of an exercise. It was what should Abbott Laboratories do? This is
Yes.
1997 about going to China or building
Yeah.
a business in China. And they brought in a guy from Dartmouth that is just an absolute huge strategic thinker, and a whole bunch of people that Ram Sharan came in, I think, and spoke to us for a day. I mean, it was just unbelievable, and it showed how important the company felt this program was and that we were. And the other thing that was great, Dan, is many of the C and O level executives came in and spent time with us and
Yes.
gave us the benefit of their perspectives, what's important to them about being a leader at Abbott Laboratories.
Yeah. I love
Yeah,
that. I
this,
love so. I mean, three takeaways that I just took from listening to you there was one, there was an investment in it. The organization put dollars behind it and resources behind it. Two, they made it practical with case studies. And
yep,
They took what you all were leading through and maybe the vision of Abbott, right? And saying, okay, how do we realize this vision? Here are some case studies and helping leaders to develop that strategic thinking. And
Yeah.
the third thing that you said that I just loved was that the C-suite of the organization made a priority for them to be involved in it, come and talk to you,
Yeah.
encourage you, and let you know that this truly is a priority for our entire organization. So
Yeah.
those are some great takeaways. So thank you.
Of course. Yeah. And Dan, to your second half,
Yeah.
again, I think companies try to push too much into like one week or one retreat or one program.
Yes.
And we forget that the pace of business is relentless and we don't give our execs and leaders time to take care of business, right? You
Yeah.
want them to stay focused, but you also have to realize that if you're locking me up for a week, I'm going to miss about 5,000 emails and I'm
Yeah.
going to get stressed just thinking about what's happening. So
Yeah.
being conscious and considerate of that, I think is really helpful, Dan, to the people
Yeah.
participating in the program. Yeah.
I think you're right. It can't just be these one-time moments, quick shot in the arm, and you're good for the next 9 months, type of thing.
Yeah.
It's like if you're going to do it, have it be something that is a true program where it is
Right.
something that you're discussing in your meetings, you're having check-ins regularly each month.
Yep.
Maybe you're providing coaching on the topic that you just covered in your workshop or something like that. So that's great, man. I love that. I love it.
Yeah.
So
Great.
Jim, can we end maybe just with an
Sure.
example of a client or an organization? I know you mentioned Abbott, but just successfully that invested in leadership
Yep.
development. What were some of the key takeaways you think for them and their experience?
Yeah, it's a great question, Dan. And I think and you and I have talked about this a little bit. I think Delta Airlines is
Yeah,
doing an amazing job right now with two initiatives. They have the Readiness Accelerator and also their Leadership Accelerator. And the nice thing about those programs, again, they're spread out over a period of time. They come with external coaching associated with it and internal mentoring. So it's a great opportunity for the Delta participants to build their network in the organization, get a mentor who's somebody at a senior level, and really go through a personalized, tailored career development program.
love
What
that.
are my strengths? Where do I need to grow? And that program is very aligned with Delta's business strategy. It's customized, it's hands-on. And the thing that I really came to appreciate having coached a number of Delta executives in that program was the fact that they got this coaching opportunity, right?
Yes.
So it wasn't just an internal program, it was something that brought to them and helped through an external lens as well. And I think what they're doing is absolutely world class and absolutely fascinating.
That's great, Jim. I love that you've been able to be right in there, learning with them and helping. That's just fantastic. So, Jim, this has been such a valuable conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan.
I'm walking away from here just realizing that when companies invest in their people, they build stronger teams, they create more engagement, like you mentioned, and they just set themselves up for long-term success. So it's such an important priority, and it's a strategic priority for organizations. So
Dan, I still use some of the stuff that I learned at Abbott back in 1997.
yeah,
Some of the tools I walked away with changed my life and changed the way I look at business and how I analyze business. And it's so powerful. So
I love it.
powerful.
I love it. Well, for those of you that are watching, if you want to learn more about Jim and how he coaches and mentors executives in large organizations and medium and even small organizations, then check us out at buildingchampions.com, or you can connect with Jim on LinkedIn. He's there. He's an ICF certified coach. He's extremely involved in leadership in so many different aspects. Jim, it's one of the things that I love about you, brother, is that you are
Thank
always
you. Thank
giving
you.
back. So thank you
Yeah.
for that.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And so thanks
Great
for
to be with
tuning in,
you.
Jim. Thanks for being my guest today. Really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to talking to you in another time here soon. Okay.
Me too. Me too, Dan. Thanks so much.
All right. Take care, everyone. We'll see
You
you later.
too.
Bye bye.
You too. Bye-bye.